Right, so my name's Nell Mead. I am a physiotherapist. I'm not a personal trainer. I don't look like a personal trainer. And I used to be in the army. I was an army physiotherapist for 10 years. And that's really where the story starts. We've had a hell of a year this year. Joined NPE in December. And it's been a hell of a roller coaster. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of background first about me and where I came from. So when I left Sandhurst, which is officer training in the army, I went straight to Headley Court. Now Headley Court, which is here, I'm not in that picture, but Headley Court is where the seriously injured soldiers, sailors, airmen go after they've had very serious injuries, and they get rehabilitated back to normal daily life as much as possible and get returned to their units. I spent 2 years there as a physio. Young, newly qualified physio, didn't have a clue what I was doing when I first got there, but I learned a hell of a lot from my fellow staff and also from my patients, who were pretty awesome. I spent 2 years there, and then I left, got posted out to various other places, including 5 months in a rather sandy place in 2003, which was interesting. We were treating the usual sprained ankles, the low back pains, all the usual stuff, in addition to, you know, the gunshot wounds, the amputations, the really big, scary stuff. Came back, went on tour. I'd been doing some rugby physio at this point, went on tour with the Natal Sharks under-20s, which was absolutely brilliant fun. And everything seemed to be going pretty well. And I was playing a lot of tennis. That's me, back row on the left of the screen. Playing for the army, playing at the inter-services at Wimbledon, absolutely fantastic, on top of the world. And then I ruptured my right rotator cuff. I'm right-handed. This was not a great move, and I ended straight back at Headley Court, this time as a patient. Brilliant. I got talking to a lot of my fellow patients and to the staff, and started realising that it wasn't all as much fun and games as I thought when I was first there, because there were a lot of people who were getting medically discharged from the forces. Now, medical discharge from the forces means you get a very small pension, but effectively it means that they're telling you that you've failed rehab. Now, what I learned as a patient was that the quality of the rehab, some of it was absolutely fantastic, but it was inconsistent. So I'm not totally convinced, and I wasn't totally convinced at the time, that everybody had failed rehab. I thought some of the time that rehab had failed them. And that's where I started to realise that maybe I could actually play a bigger role in this, and I started to find my purpose. In 2007, my mum got cancer, and she died. And my sister and I nursed her 24/7 for the last 2 weeks, and it was a pretty horrible time. But at the end of it, my sister and I were left with a little bit of money to play with. Now, my sister, she got married and bought a house and did all the sensible stuff. And I started writing a business plan. Because in 2010, I left the army with this massive vision, which is set up my own version of Headley Court, to pick up all the people who'd failed rehab, to bring them back, get them fixed, and bring them back into everyday life. And I had this massive plan, and I got really excited, and I started talking to all the consultants I'd worked with in the army. I went off and I had a meeting with Bryn Parry at Help for Heroes, and I was really, really buzzing. And then my boyfriend at the time introduced me to his accountant, who specialised in startups, and his name is Canisius, and he's an amazing man, and he told me I was completely fucking insane. I had no market that I knew about, because nobody knew that this thing was a thing. I had no clients. I had no way of getting clients. I didn't know anybody in the civilian world. I had no business, no real business plan, no social proof. And he basically told me that if I decided to do the thing I decided to do, that I was going to blow all my mum's money within 2 months and be left with absolutely nothing. He told me I should start small and grow organically, and that's probably the best advice I've had so far. So he was absolutely brilliant. This is the obligatory celeb slide. Every presentation has to have one, because in between leaving the army and setting up my company, Victory, I went off and I did some work with Sky Sports, which was absolutely brilliant, on a rugby-based tough love program called School of Hard Knocks. And that's me with Colin Jarvis, who's the ex-Wales rugby captain. That's David Hay, Will Greenwood, me with lovely Jason Leonard. Oh my God, teenage crush. And we also worked with Boris Johnson and a load of other people. It was incredible. But then back to work. Set up Victory Health and Performance, my company, in January 2011. And I started off by doing some split testing. Wasn't sure where I needed to be. I thought Harley Street sounded cool, so I did 2 days a week in Harley Street, renting a room by the hour, and 2 days a week in Liverpool Street, also renting a room by the hour. And after 6 months, I realised that Liverpool Street was definitely the place to be. It was a much better vibe, and I was getting more clients. So I moved there full time, and there was a second therapy room, which I then took on full time. So that was me. I had my 2-room therapy centre, and I thought I had it made. And then I started running into problems. And if you ask any business owner what their biggest problem is, number one problem will be staff, right? Right, Heidi? Yep, absolutely. And that was because I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted really high quality, self-motivated, really switched on staff who were going to be absolutely brilliant. But I had no idea where to get them from. No idea how to train them. No idea how much to pay them or what business model to use to pay them. And so I made a hell of a lot of mistakes. I'm really, 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 really bad at saying no to people. So I had all these people coming in, can I work for you? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I made some horrendous mistakes, and some of them, we're not great people. And the other problem we had was cash flow. The second biggest problem any business owner will tell you about, because I'd been paying £25 an hour, renting the rooms by the hour, and suddenly I was paying £2,500 a month in rent, central London. And the first month we brought in £2,500. So that was pretty painful. But we survived, made it through, and by last summer, so August 2014, we had an average turnover of £14,000 a year, £14,000 a month. Sorry. I had three therapists, including me, and a remote admin. So that was pretty cool. And then the rug got pulled out from underneath me because I was renting those 2 rooms from a personal training centre, which shall be nameless. And their lease ran out, and they didn't tell me, which was jolly helpful of them. And I had to find out from rumours from their staff. And then they came, when I approached them about it, they said, oh yeah, we should definitely get a new place together. It would be absolutely brilliant. So we started looking, and in the course of the negotiations, I learned that actually I was paying the rent on the whole building. I only had the 2 rooms in the basement, and I was actually paying for a whole 5-storey building, which was marvellous. So I decided it was probably best to go it alone. So I did. And in December 2014, we moved into Sun Street, which is in Liverpool Street. It's the most fantastic location. It's absolutely gorgeous. We have 4 treatment rooms. We have a little studio, which you can see there, and that's some of my lovely team. The fit-out cost me £120,000, which was quite a lot because we had to put in walls and all sorts of stuff. It was a complete empty shell. So I had minus £20,000 in the bank, which was fun. And I suddenly had a massive rent bill. Because previously I'd been paying £2,500 a month, so 30 grand a year, and that included rent, rates and utilities. The new place costs me £74,000 a year in just rent and service charge. So that's quite a big hole. And I also, because I now had a studio, needed a completely new business model, because in physiotherapy, which is my background, the aim is to get rid of your clients as quickly as possible. And apparently that's not what you guys do. So new business model needed, and cash needed, and I needed some new staff because I only had the 3 staff plus the remote admin, and suddenly I had 4 rooms and a studio, so it really wasn't going to do the job. And that's where NPE came in. And that's when I went on, they were doing an auto-closer offer, so I did that. I went on Fast Forward with Tom, who told me that with 14 grand turnover, I should be in VIP, and I didn't believe a word of it. But, went through it, got allocated a coach, couldn't afford to do daytime coaching, so I asked for an evening coach. I got allocated to Evan, who is in North America, and he is incredible. And we started doing really quite well. We had a best month ever in February, another one in March. I was starting to feel really happy. And then on Monday the 10th of May, I walked into the clinic with Rachel, who's over there, and we discovered this. We're underneath the branch of Starbucks. Starbucks use a lot of water. And a machine had broken over the weekend, and they'd chucked about 20,000 litres of water through our ceiling, through our electrical cupboard, which you can see up there on the right-hand side, down our walls, underneath our floors. We were 30% closed for 3 months, as it turned out. So I didn't cry. First good thing. I got onto the phone and I called up Starbucks and told them what had happened. I got onto our clients and we told them what had happened, so they didn't come in and find us in a disaster zone. We got onto the landlords so they could get the cleaning team in, and we got onto our insurance so we could start looking at a refit. And that was when I found my first real big problem, because my insurance apparently didn't cover ceiling, walls and floor. Brilliant. Then realised that we had a £15,000 rent bill due the next month. No, that's next month, 2 weeks later, and the damage was going to cost us £60,000. Bear in mind that I'd emptied the bank account, we were minus £20,000 already, I was completely stuck. I thought about the NPE principles, client success principles on my wall, and took responsibility, practiced faith, did all that stuff, got my crap together, called my team together, and Operation Pay the Rent came into practice. We put a referral campaign together. We sent out gift vouchers. 55 people took up the offer of the gift voucher, over £100 off the first session. 20 bought further packages. That brought in just over £10,000. Thank God. We also did a cash flow campaign, and so if people were buying a 3-month package, bought it up front, we paid them at the six-month rate. That brought in £4,500, so we made the rent. We then had another meeting. This is for Operation 60K, which was for the refit. So we emailed our clients, and they were absolutely fantastic. Some of them actually, we didn't ask them to do this, but they actually started offering us loans, which was amazing of them. We haven't taken them up on it. We started writing some workshops. Not done yet. Studio wasn't actually working, so we couldn't do that. And we created a founder members campaign, which we're going to do next month. And I asked NPE, which is a biggie. So some of you are many of you, in fact, are on the VIP group and will have seen my post about, oh my God, we're flooded. Help, 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 help. I'm panicking. And everybody was absolutely amazing. Came up with so many ideas. Everyone was really helpful. Andrew, where are you? At the back somewhere. He came in and brainstormed with us. He was absolutely brilliant. And Sean came up with this giant, hairy, scary idea. Thanks, Sean. Which was to set up a crowdfunding campaign, which I did not put live. I also wrote a press release saying, Starbucks have broken my business. I'm a war veteran, blah, 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 small business owner. They've broken me, and they've not helped me. I got my solicitor to check it because I didn't want to be done for blackmail, because being inside for 7 years, which is the maximum penalty, was not going to be any good for my clients. And then I wrote a long email to the chief exec of Starbucks UK asking him for help and explaining that if he did not help me, or if I did not hear from him by Thursday, the crowdfunding campaign would go live. I copied that to the UK press office, I pressed send, and I sat back with a very large gin and tonic and waited. And I waited 2 days because he got back to me amazingly quickly, and by Thursday he had agreed to fund the refit. And over the next 3 weeks, the Starbucks contractors came in overnight, every night and at weekends, and they completely fitted out my clinic. Thank you. And so we had a relaunch party 2 weeks ago. And the theme was Make It Happy, which was a typo that the chief exec, Mark Fox, that's him on the far right, talking to my brother-in-law with the beard. So he came to help us celebrate, and that Make It Happy was a typo that he'd made. He meant to say Make It Happen, we'll make it happen. He said, we'll make it happy. I thought that was awesome. So we've been using that ever since. Sean, you around? You're at the back. Thank you. Massive, massive thank you. You saved my clinic, and if you were a drinking man, I'd be buying you a pint or 6. Just want to talk you quickly through the numbers. You can read these for yourselves. This is what's happened to us in the 6 months before NPE and the 6 months after. The big things I want to pull out of this are that the income has increased by 85%. Our best month ever is increased by 61%. And our average contacts with our clients has gone up by 66% this year, which is pretty freaking incredible. And we haven't started marketing yet. That is down to these things. These are the new things we've been doing since we got involved with NPE. We've got the new studio, we've got our new services. So we started doing PT for the first time. We've got yoga classes, one-to-one yoga, we've got fitness classes, we've got rehab. We've got a new payment model. So I now pay all my staff a salary. And this was another of Sean's ideas. And I was absolutely shit scared about it because I'd promised to pay all my staff these ridiculously high wages. And then I presented it to them and they all went, yeah, that's a great idea. And I went, oh. Okay, cool. I've got new team members, so I've got new physio, new PT, rehab, admin, etc., etc. We're all using autocloser. Everybody in the business uses autocloser. And I've started cutting back on my clinical hours, so I've got time to work on the business, which is making a huge, huge difference. I now send out an email newsletter every week because I've got time to write one, which is pretty awesome. We had a team meeting Last weekend, we all worked massively hard on the core values. It was absolutely brilliant. I was so proud of the girls. So what's next? We have got Facebook ads starting. We're aiming for best month ever of 40 grand. That's our next big target. Looking for a new PT if anybody wants a job. But my big goal is I want to open Victory Residential in 2020. That's what I'm really looking for. And the point of that is to help people who have failed rehab, whether that's NHS rehab, whether that's military rehab. And I want to keep a couple of places for ex-military personnel. There's 5 big lessons I've learned this year. I've got 4 seconds left. I'm going to give this a go. 5 big lessons I've learned this year. Number 1 is listen to Sean. Every time I've not listened to Sean this year, every time I've said, no, I don't think that's right, I've been wrong. I'm going to try and learn from that. Next one is hire and fire on the core values. I didn't do that initially. My team were not completely aligned, and that led to some problems. I'm now hiring and firing on core values, which is absolutely brilliant. Understand your numbers. It's not just know your numbers, you have to understand them so that you know how much you can afford to pay. Bear in mind that what comes in now may not be available, you might need it later, so don't just spend it all. Do the scary thing, not just the safe thing. If I had not done the scary thing and emailed the chief exec, I would not be standing here right now. And finally, get insurance. Really, really important. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you've been a little bit entertained and learned something from those big 5 lessons. I'm going to do something terribly, terribly un-British right now, and I'm going to ask you to vote for me, because my goal is to build that rehab centre for people who have failed rehab. It's going to be immense, it's going to be absolutely incredible, and it's going to really help so many people. And the winner of this thing gets so much coaching towards that, so please help me, because I really, really, really want that to become a reality and to help so many people. Thank you.